Screwtape letters by Professor C.S. Lewis of Magdalene College, Oxford University, 1941. Chapter 23. My dear Wormwood, through this girl and her disgusting family, the patient is now getting to know more Christians every day, and very intelligent Christians too. For a long time, it will be quite impossible to remove spirituality from his life. Very well then, we must corrupt it. No doubt, you have often practiced transforming yourself into an angel of light as a parade ground exercise. Now is the time to do it in the face of the enemy. The world and the flesh have failed us. A third power remains, and success of this third kind is the most glorious of all: a spoiled saint, a Pharisee, an inquisitor, or a magician makes better sport in hell than a mere common tyrant or debauchee. Looking round your patient's new friends, I find that the best point of attack would be the borderline between theology and politics. Several of his new friends are very much alive to the social implications of their religion. That in itself is a bad thing, but good can be made out of it. If you find that many Christian political writers think that Christianity began going wrong and departing from the doctrine of its founder at a very early stage, now this idea must be used by us to encourage once again the conception of a historical Jesus to be found by clearing away later accretions and perversions, and then to be contrasted with the whole Christian tradition. In the last generation, we promoted the construction of such a historical Jesus on liberal and humanitarian lines. We are now putting forward a new historical Jesus on Marxian, catastrophic and revolutionary lines. The advantage of these constructions, which we intend to change every 30 years or so, are manifold. In the first place, they all tend to direct men's devotion to something which does not exist. For each historical Jesus is unhistorical. For each historical Jesus is unhistorical. The documents say what they say and cannot be added to. Each new historical Jesus, therefore, has to be got out of them by suppression at one point and exaggeration at another, and by that sort of guessing. Brilliant is the adjective we teach humans to apply to it, on which no one could risk 10 shillings in ordinary life, but which is enough to produce a crop of new Napoleons, new Shakespeares, and new Swifts in every publisher's autumn list. In the second place, all such constructions place the importance of their historical Jesus in some peculiar theory he is supposed to have promulgated. He has to be a great man in the modern sense of the word, one standing at the terminus of some centrifugal and imbalanced line of thought, a crank wending a panacea. We thus distract men's minds from who he is and what he did. We first make him solely a teacher, and then conceal the very substantial agreement between his teachings and those of all other great moral teachers. For humans must not be allowed to notice that all great moralists are sent by the enemy not to inform men but to remind them, to restate the primeval moral platitudes against our continual concealment of them. We make the sophists. He raises up a Socrates to answer them. Our third aim is, by these constructions, to destroy the devotional life. For the real presence of the enemy, otherwise experienced by men in prayer and sacrament, we substitute a merely probable, remote, shadowy, and uncouth figure, one who spoke a strange language and died a long time ago. Such an object cannot in fact be worshipped. Instead of the Creator adored by its creature, you soon have merely a leader acclaimed by a partisan, and finally a distinguished character approved by a judicious historian. And fourthly, besides being unhistorical, in the Jesus, it depicts religion of this kind is false to history in another sense. No notion and few individuals are really brought into the enemy's camp by the historical study of the biography of Jesus, simply as biography. Indeed, materials for a full biography have been withheld from men. The earliest converts were converted by a single historical fact, the resurrection, and a single theological doctrine, the redemption, operating on a sense of sin, which they already had, and sin not against some new fancy dress law produced as a novelty by a great man, but against the old platitudinous universal moral law which they had been taught by their nurses and mothers. The Gospels come later and were written not to make Christians but to edify Christians already made. The historical Jesus then, however dangerous he may seem to be to us at some particular point, is always to be encouraged. About the general connection between Christianity and politics, our position is more delicate. Certainly, we do not want men to allow their Christianity to flow over into their political life, for the establishment of anything like a really just society would be a major disaster. On the other hand, we do want, and want very much, to make men treat Christianity as a means, preferably, of course, as a means to their own advancement, but failing that, as a means to anything, even to social justice. The thing to do is to get a man at first to value social justice as a thing which the enemy demands, and then work him onto the stage at which the values Christianity because it may produce social justice. But the enemy will not be used as a convenience. Men or nations who think they can revive the faith in order to make a good society might just as well think they can use the stairs of heaven as a shortcut to the nearest chemist's shop. Fortunately, it is quite easy to coax humans round this little corner. Only today I have found a passage in a Christian writer where he recommends his own version of Christianity on the ground that only such a faith can outlast the death of old cultures and the birth of new civilizations. You see the little rift. Believe this not because it is true, but for some other reason. That's the game. Your affectionate uncle, Screwtape. Screwtape Letters, Chapter 24. My dear Wormwood, I have been in correspondence with Slum Trimpet. I have been in correspondence with Slum Trimpet, who is in charge of your patient's young woman, and begin to see the chink in her armor. And begin to see the chink in her armor. It is an unobtrusive little vice which she shares with nearly all women who have grown up in an intelligent circle united by a clearly defined belief, and it consists in a quite untroubled assumption that the outsiders who do not share this belief are really too stupid and ridiculous. The males who habitually meet these outsiders do not feel that way. Their confidence, if they are confident, is of a different kind. Hers, which she supposes to be due to faith, is in reality largely due to the mere color she has taken from her surroundings. It's not, in fact, very different from the conviction she would have felt at the age of 10 that the kind of fish knives used in her father's house were the proper or normal or real kind, which those of the neighboring families were not real fish knives at all. Now, the element of ignorance and naivety in all this is so large, and the element of spiritual pride so small, that it gives us little hope of the girl herself. But have you thought of how it can be made to influence your own patient? It's always the novice who exaggerates. The man who has risen in society is over-refined. The young scholar is pedantic. In this new circle, your patient is a novice. He is there daily meeting Christian life of equality he never before imagined. he never before imagined, and seeing it all through an enchanted glass, because he is in love. He is anxious. Indeed, the enemy commands him to imitate this quality. Can you get him to imitate this defect in his mistress and to exaggerate it until what was venial in her becomes in him the strongest and most beautiful of the vices? Spiritual pride. The conditions seem ideally favorable. The new circle in which he finds himself is one of which he is tempted to be proud for many reasons other than its Christianity. It is a better educated, more intelligent, more agreeable society than any he has yet encountered. He is also under some degree of illusion as to his own place in it. Under the influence of love, he may still think himself unworthy of the girl, but he is rapidly ceasing to think himself unworthy of the others. He has no notion how much in him is forgiving because they are charitable and made the best of because he is now one of the family. He does not dream how much of his conversation, how many of his opinions are recognized by them all as mere echoes of their own. Still less does he suspect how much of the delight he takes in these people is due to the erotic enchantment which the girl for him spreads over all her surroundings. He thinks that he likes their talk and way of life because of some congruity.
Excuse me, doctor. Do you have the office key?
Yes, Harry.
There's nobody in the office
Ah, ah, ah.
now, and sorry.
You are welcome, Harry. You can take the key.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You will go to the office.
Sure.
Okay.
You can leave the key on my table.
Okay.
I'm taking your photo.
Okay. Thank you. When will you go to the office?
In 45 minutes, Harry. In 45 minutes.
40 minutes? 40 minutes? 40, 50? 40? 40 minutes. Okay. See you?
See you, Harry.
Yeah.
He thinks that he likes their talk and way of life because of some congruity between their spiritual state and his, when in fact they are so far beyond him that if he were not in love, he would be merely puzzled and repelled by much which he now accepts. He is like a dog which should imagine it understood fire. He is like a dog which should imagine it understood firearms because its hunting instinct and love for its master enabled it to enjoy a day's shooting. Here is your chance. While the enemy, by means of sexual love and of some very agreeable people far advanced in his service, is drawing the young barbarian up to levels he could never otherwise have reached, you must make him feel that he is finding his own level, that these people are his sort, and that, coming among them, he has come home. When he turns from them to other society, he will find it dull, partly because almost any society within his reach is, in fact, much less entertaining, but still more because he will miss the enhancement of the young woman. You must teach him to mistake this contrast between the circle that delights and the circle that bores him for the contrast between Christians and unbelievers. He must be made to feel he had better not put it into words how difficult we Christians are, and by we Christians he must really, but unknowingly, mean my set. And by my set he must mean not the people who, in their charity and humility, have accepted me, but the people with whom I associate by right. Success here depends on confusing them. If you try to make him explicitly and professedly proud of being a Christian, you will probably fail. The enemy's warnings are too well known. If, on the other hand, you let the idea of we Christians drop out altogether and merely make him complacent about his set, you will produce not true spiritual pride, but mere social vanity, which, by comparison, is a trumpery, puny little sin. What you want is to keep a sly self-congratulation mixing with all his thoughts and never allow him to raise the question, what precisely am I congratulating myself about? The idea of belonging to an inner ring, of being in a secret, is very sweet to him. Play on that nerve. Teach him, using the influence of this girl when she is silliest, to adopt an air of amusement at the things the unbelievers say. So, some theories which he may meet in modern Christian circles may here prove helpful. Theories, I mean, that place the hope on society in some inner ring of clerks, some trained minority of theocrats. It is no affair of yours whether those theories are true or false. The great thing is to make Christianity a mystery religion in which he feels himself one of the initiatives. Pray do not fill your letters with rubbish about this European war. Its final issue is no doubt important, but that is a matter for the High Command. I am not in the least interested in knowing how many people in England have been killed by bombs. In what state of mind they died, I can learn from the office at this end. That they were going to die sometime, I knew already. Please keep your mind on your work. Your affectionate Uncle Screwtape. Screwtape Letters, Chapter 25 by Professor C.S. Lewis of Magdalen College, Oxford University, 1941. My dear Wormwood, the real trouble about the set your patient is living in is that it is merely Christian. They all have individual interests, of course, but the bond remains mere Christianity. What we want, if men become Christians at all, is to keep them in the state of mind I call Christianity and, Christianity and the crisis, Christianity and the new psychology, Christianity and the new order, Christianity and faith healing, Christianity and physical research, Christianity and vegetarianism, Christianity and spelling reform. If they must be Christians, let them at least be Christians with a difference. Substitute for the faith itself some fashion with a Christian coloring. Work on their horror of the same old thing. The horror of the same old thing is one of the most valuable passions we have produced in the human heart, an endless source of heresies in religion, folly in counsel, infidelity in marriage, and inconstancy in friendship. The humans live in time and experience reality successively. They experience much of it, therefore, they must experience many different things. In other words, they must experience change. And since they need change, the enemy, being a hedonist at heart, has made change pleasurable to them, just as he has made eating pleasurable. But since he does not wish them to make change any more than eating an end in itself, he has balanced the love of change in them by a love of permanence. He has contrived to gratify both tastes together in the very world he has made by the union of change and permanence, which we call rhythm. He gives them the seasons, each season different, yet every year the same, so that spring is always felt as a novelty, yet always as the recurrence of an immemorial theme. He gives them in his church a spiritual year. They change from a fast to a feast, but it is the same feast as before. Now, just as we pick out and exaggerate the pleasure of eating to produce gluttony, so we pick out this natural pleasantness of change and twist it into a demand for absolute novelty. This demand is entirely our workmanship. If we neglect our duty, man will be not only contented but transported by the mixed novelty and familiarity of snowdrops this January, sunrise this morning, plum pudding this Christmas. Children, until we have taught them better, will be perfectly happy with a seasonal round of games in which conquerors succeed, hopscotch as regularly as autumn follows summer. Only by our incessant efforts in the demand for infinite and unrhythmical change kept up. This demand is valuable in various ways. In the first place, it diminishes pleasure. While increasing desire. The pleasure of novelty is, by its very nature, more subject than any other to the law of diminishing returns, and continued novelty costs money, so that the desire for it spells avarice or unhappiness or both. And again, the more rapacious this desire, the sooner it must eat up all the innocent sources of pleasure and pass on to those the enemy forbids. Thus, by inflaming the horror of the same old thing, we have recently made the arts, for example, less dangerous to us than perhaps they have ever been. Low brow and high brow artists alike being now daily drawn into fresh and still fresh excesses of lasciviousness, unreason, cruelty, and pride. Finally, the desire for novelty is indispensable if we are to produce fashions or vogues. The use of fashions in thought is to distract the attention of men from their real dangers. We direct the fashionable outcry of each generation against those vices of which it is least in danger and fix its approval on the virtue nearest to that vice which we are trying to make endemic. The game is to have them all running about with fire extinguishers whenever there is a flood, and all crowding to that side of the boat which is already nearly gunwale under. Thus, we make it fashionable to expose the dangers of enthusiasm at the very moment when they are all really becoming worldly and lukewarm. A century later, when we are really making them all Byronic and drunk with emotion, the fashionable outcry is directed against the dangers of the mere understanding. Cruel ages are put on their guard against sentimentality, feckless and idle ones against respectability, lecherous ones against puritanism, and whenever all men are really hastening to be slaves or tyrants, we make liberalism the prime bogey. But the greatest triumph of all is to elevate this horror of the same old thing into a philosophy, so that nonsense in the intellect may reinforce corruption in the will. It is here that the general evolutionary or historical character of modern European thought, partly our work, comes in so useful. The enemy loves platitudes. Of a proposed course of action, he wants men, so far as I can see, to ask very simple questions. Is it right? Yes. Is it prudent? Is it possible? Now, if we can keep men asking, is it in accordance with the general movement of our time? Is it progressive or reactionary? Is this the way that history is going? They will neglect the relevant questions, and the questions they do ask are, of course, unanswerable, for they do not know the future, and what the future will be depends very largely on just those choices which they now invoke the future to help them to make. As a result, while their minds are buzzing in their vacuum, we have the better chance to slip in and bend them to the action we have decided on, and great work has already been begun, and great work has already been done. Once they knew that some changes were for the better, and others for the worse, and others again indifferent. We have largely removed this knowledge. For the disruptive adjective unchanged, we have substituted the emotional adjective stagnant. We have trained them to think of the future as a promised land which favored heroes attain not as something which everyone reaches at the rate of 60 minutes an hour. Whatever he does, whoever he is, your affectionate uncle, Screwtape. Screwtape Letters by Professor C.S. Lewis of Magdalen College, Oxford University, 1941, Chapter 24. My dear Wormwood, yes, courtship is the time for sowing those seeds which will grow up 10 years later into domestic hatred. The enhancement of unsatisfied desire. The enhancement of unsatisfied desire produces results which the humans can be made to mistake for the results of charity. Avail yourself of the ambiguity in the word love. Let them think they have solved by love problems. They have in fact only waived or postponed under the influence of the enchantment. While it lasts, you have your chance to foment the problems in secret and render them chronic. The grand problem is that of unselfishness. Note once again the admirable work of our philological arm in substituting the negative unselfishness for the enemy's positive charity. Thanks to this, you can, from the very outset, teach a man to surrender benefits, not that others may be happy in having them, but that he may be unselfish in foregoing them. That is a great point gained. Another great help, where the parties concerned are male and female, is the divergence of view about unselfishness which we have built up between the sexes. A woman means by unselfishness chiefly taking trouble for others. A man means not giving trouble to others. As a result, a woman who is quite far gone in the enemy's service will make a new sense of herself on a larger scale than any man except those whom our Father has dominated completely. And conversely, a man.
How can I speak?
You are welcome.
You are welcome. Can we communicate with English?
Please,
Okay, yes.
please.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. I do record some videos.
Video. I know.
These are my favorite books. This book is Screwtape Letters. I like some Christian English books. Very old. Some of them I used to read while I was in my college, in my PhD studies. I thought they should be brought out and made to be accessible to all. So in China, in SJTU University, I find the places are so beautiful, so green, so calm. Most of the Indians do not have such wonderful environment. When they happen to see such videos with beautiful greenery, with beautiful students cheering up, they will be enjoying.
Oh, yes.
Enjoying by seeing and enjoying by hearing. So I want to make some videos and make most of my time in China. My time in China is going to come to an end by March 31st. So before that, I want to make as many videos as I can. Yeah, you can.
My English is not very well, so your conversation I just understand half or not all.
You speak sweet English.
Yes. Are you student or teacher?
I do my research. I'm a researcher. I'm a staff.
Staff
Like
research.
teacher.
Which school?
In chemistry.
Chemistry 化学. Yes. I'm a student. PhD candidate in School of Electronic. You know. I across it. I hear you speak English, and I want because my English is not very well, so I just want to communicate to improve or make me have progress. No.
You are most welcome. My name is Indra.
Oh, England. Yeah. Which country are you from? Do you from?
From India.
India. Oh.
The English of Indians will be more like the English of England and British, because the Britishers were there in our country for over a century. So we learnt English from Britishers. So our English will be similar to the England English.
Yes.
You are most welcome. We can be in touch, and we will.
It means that English and Indians is the same important for you. You and you where you are in India.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Your name.
My name is Li Yin Yu. Li Yin. You can call me Li Yin.
Li In Yu.
李颖，然后是鱼，可能you can I don't know how to speak it.
Li In Yu.
Yes.
Pleased to see you, Li In Yu.
I'm very happy to see you.
Chinese are very loving and affectionate people.
Yes.
Very tender, very soft, very kind. Indians are also very polite and warm people.
Oh, it's this time is the holiday. Are you work also?
I work.
Do you have a holiday? You can go out or buy all in your home. It means that you don't need come here every day.
Thank you, Li In Yu. Yes, Li In Yu. I enjoy my time in the campus. I take rest at home during the vacation, and I come a bit late to university to study and to complete some manuscripts that are pending, and some other writing. Yeah. I'm happy to know your concern and love. Thank you. I enjoy my holiday and take rest. We will be in touch. We will be in contact.
Can I take your time?
Can you write your name and we chat?
Oh yes. I
maybe.
take picture.
Maybe.